While modern supermarkets offer only a handful of staple crops, humans once cultivated thousands of food plants. Six of the most nutritious disappeared from cultivation almost entirely, but they're making a quiet comeback. And they might be exactly what modern gardens need. The average supermarket carries produce from fewer than 20 plant species. Potatoes, wheat, rice, corn, tomatoes, the same crops dominate everywhere. This represents a catastrophic narrowing of agricultural diversity. Just a century ago, seed catalogs listed hundreds of varieties across dozens of species. Farmers grew regionally adapted crops their grandparents cultivated. Gardens contained plants modern shoppers wouldn't recognize. Then industrial agriculture standardized everything. A handful of high-yielding crops replaced thousands of traditional varieties. Food became commodity rather than heritage. Entire species disappeared from cultivation. The consequences extend beyond nostalgia. Modern crops depend on synthetic inputs. They lack resilience to climate stress, and they often provide inferior nutrition compared to the diverse foods they replaced. But scattered across the globe, seed savers and agricultural historians preserved what nearly vanished. Ancient crops once feeding entire civilizations wait in seed banks and small-scale cultivation. Their genetics hold solutions to modern agricultural challenges. 6 crops in particular deserve resurrection. Each offers superior nutrition, climate resilience, and minimal input requirements compared to modern staples. Each connects growers to deep food heritage while providing practical sustenance. These aren't curiosities for plant collectors. They're legitimate food crops that sustained populations for millennia before being abandoned in the rush toward agricultural simplification. Understanding what was lost and how to restore it transforms modern gardens from decorative hobbies into genuine food security systems rooted in proven agricultural wisdom. Crop number 1. Sorghum, the drought master. Before corn dominated American agriculture, sorghum fed the South. African in origin, it arrived with enslaved people who recognized its value immediately. Sorghum thrived where other grains failed. The plant possesses extraordinary drought tolerance. Its root system penetrates 6 feet deep, accessing moisture unavailable to shallow-rooted crops. During the Dust Bowl, sorghum survived when wheat and corn completely failed. Beyond drought tolerance, sorghum requires almost no inputs, no irrigation after establishment, no fertilizer on decent soil, minimal pest problems. The crop essentially grows itself once planted. Nutritionally, sorghum rivals or exceeds wheat. The grain contains comparable protein with superior mineral content. It's naturally gluten-free, making it valuable for people with celiac disease, and it provides complete nutrition when combined with legumes. Traditional use was diverse. The grain was ground into flour for flatbreads and porridge. Stalks were pressed for sweet syrup, a common sweetener before sugar became cheap. Some varieties were grown specifically for making brooms from the seed heads. Then corn hybrids promised higher yields. Sorghum cultivation plummeted. By the 1970s, few Americans outside traditional communities even knew what sorghum was. Now it's resurging. Climate change makes drought tolerance increasingly valuable. Gluten-free demand creates markets, and gardeners rediscovering it realize how remarkably productive and easy it is to grow. Growing sorghum. The crop requires full sun and warm soil. Plant after last frost when soil reaches 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Seeds are small but easy to handle. Plant in rows or broadcast, spacing to allow 12 to 18 inches between plants. Germination occurs in 7 to 10 days. Early growth is slow as the plant establishes deep roots. Then it grows rapidly, reaching 4 to 8 feet depending on variety. Water establishment period only. After 6 weeks, stop watering entirely. The deep roots take over. This is critical. Sorghum demonstrates its drought tolerance only when forced to root deeply. Harvest occurs 90 to 120 days after planting when seed heads mature and seeds harden. Cut heads, dry thoroughly. Thresh by hand or with simple equipment. Store whole grains in sealed containers. Yields are substantial. 20 plants produce several pounds of grain from minimal space with 0 inputs after establishment. Using sorghum. Grind into flour using grain mill or high-powered blender. Mix 25 to 50% sorghum flour with wheat flour for bread. Use 100% sorghum flour for flatbreads, pancakes, and porridge. Cook whole grains like rice. Simmer 1 cup grain in 3 cups water for 45 minutes. Results in chewy, nutritious side dish. Pop like popcorn for crunchy snack. Heat dry pan very hot. Add small amount of grain. Stir constantly. Not all varieties pop well. Specific popping sorghum varieties work best. Sweet sorghum varieties can be pressed for syrup, though this requires specialized equipment. Crop number 2, Jerusalem artichoke, the perennial calorie source. The name misleads. It's neither from Jerusalem nor an artichoke. This North American native sunflower produces edible tubers that once provided staple calories for indigenous peoples and early colonists. The plant grows as vigorous perennial, producing beautiful yellow flowers in fall and massive quantities of knobby tubers underground. Once established, it returns annually with zero care, producing food indefinitely. Nutritionally, Jerusalem artichoke offers unique benefits. The tubers contain inulin, a prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. They provide sustained energy without blood sugar spikes. And they're rich in iron, potassium, and B vitamins. Traditional peoples harvested tubers in late fall through winter, leaving some in ground to regenerate the patch. The tubers store poorly once dug but remain perfect underground, allowing harvest as needed through cold months. European colonists adopted Jerusalem artichoke enthusiastically. It provided reliable food with zero cultivation effort. Patches persisted for decades without attention. Then potatoes arrived from South America. Higher yields and easier processing made potatoes dominant. Jerusalem artichoke faded from cultivation despite its perennial nature and nutritional superiority. Climate change and food security concerns are driving rediscovery. A crop producing food annually without replanting, fertilizer, or irrigation has obvious appeal. Growing Jerusalem artichoke. Plant tubers in early spring. Choose location carefully. This plant spreads aggressively and is nearly impossible to eradicate once established. Many growers plant in dedicated beds or areas where spreading is acceptable. Plant tubers 4 to 6 inches deep, spacing 12 to 18 inches apart. Water during establishment only. Plants grow 6 to 10 feet tall with minimal care. Allow 1 full season for establishment. Resist harvesting first year. The patch needs time to develop substantial root systems. Beginning second year, harvest tubers after first frost. Cold converts inulin to sugars, improving flavor. Dig carefully. Tubers are knobby and break easily. Harvest only what you'll use soon. Leave remainder in ground for continued harvest through winter. In mild climates, harvest through early spring. Each year, the patch expands. Manage spread by digging barriers or harvesting edges aggressively. Yields reach 4 to 8 pounds per plant. A small patch provides substantial calories annually with zero inputs. Using Jerusalem artichoke. Scrub tubers. Peeling is optional and tedious given their knobby shape. Slice thin and roast with oil and salt. They develop sweet, nutty flavor similar to artichoke hearts. Boil and mash like potatoes. Add butter and seasonings. The texture is slightly different but equally satisfying. Slice raw into salads. They're crunchy with mild, slightly sweet flavor. Pickle for long-term storage. They maintain crunch beautifully when pickled. Caution: Jerusalem artichokes cause gas in some people, especially when first eating them. Start with small quantities. Crop number 3. Farro. The ancient wheat. Long before modern wheat, Mediterranean civilizations built empires on farro. This ancient grain fed Romans, sustained medieval Europeans, and remained staple food for millennia. Farro actually encompasses 3 related wheat species: einkorn, emmer, and spelt. All share characteristics that made them reliable food sources: exceptional flavor, superior nutrition, and remarkable growing ease. The grains contain more protein than modern wheat with better amino acid profiles. They're rich in fiber, B vitamins, and minerals. Many people sensitive to modern wheat tolerate farro well, though it contains gluten. Perhaps most importantly, farro grows with minimal inputs. The crops tolerate poor soil, require little water, and resist most diseases plaguing modern wheat. Traditional farmers grew farro successfully where hybrid wheat failed. So why did it disappear? Modern wheat outyields farro significantly, and farro's tough hull requires special processing to remove. Industrial agriculture chose yields over nutrition and flavor. But for home growers, farro's advantages outweigh its lower yields. It grows easily in gardens. It requires no special equipment beyond what's needed for any grain, and it provides genuinely superior nutrition and flavor. The recent revival started in Italy, where traditional farro cultivation never completely ceased. Chefs rediscovered its nutty flavor and chewy texture. Interest spread to heritage grain bakers and home growers. Growing farro. Plant in fall or early spring depending on climate and variety. Fall planting works in zones 6 to 10. Spring planting elsewhere. Broadcast seeds over prepared bed or plant in rows. Cover lightly with soil. Seeds are larger than modern wheat and easier to handle. Germination occurs in 7 to 14 days. Early growth establishes root systems. Spring growth is rapid, with plants reaching 3 to 4 feet by early summer. Water establishment period only. After that, farro's drought tolerance takes over. The deep roots access moisture efficiently. Harvest when grain heads turn golden and seeds are hard enough to resist fingernail pressure. Cut stalks, bundle, and shock in field for 1 to 2 weeks of field drying. Thresh by hand or with simple equipment. Winnow to remove chaff. Some varieties require additional hulling, which can be done by hand for small quantities. Yields vary, but 10 to 20 pounds from 100 square feet is typical with minimal care. Using farro. Cook like rice. Simmer 1 cup farro in 3 cups water for 25 to 40 minutes, depending on variety. Results in chewy, flavorful grain perfect as side dish or grain bowl base. Use in soups and stews. Farro maintains texture during long cooking while adding substance and nutrition. Grind into flour for bread baking. Farro flour produces dense, flavorful loaves. Mix with modern wheat flour or use 100% farro for authentic ancient bread experience. Crack into pieces for porridge. Cook like oatmeal for hearty, satisfying breakfast. 3 ancient crops recovered. Sorghum thriving in drought. Jerusalem artichoke producing without replanting. Farro offering superior nutrition for minimal inputs. These aren't museum pieces. They're functional foods that modern gardens desperately need. 3 more forgotten crops reveal how much agricultural wisdom was abandoned. Crop number 4. OCA. The Andes tuber. While potatoes dominate global agriculture, the Andes region where they originated also developed other remarkable tubers. OCA ranks second only to potatoes in traditional Andean agriculture, yet remains almost unknown elsewhere. The plant produces colorful tubers in shades of pink, orange, yellow, and purple. These contain vitamin C, iron, and unique antioxidants. The flavor is distinctive, slightly tart with citrus notes, completely unlike potatoes. OCA thrives in cool conditions and high altitudes where other crops struggle. It tolerates frost, poor soil, and requires minimal water once established. Andean farmers grew it successfully at elevations where corn and wheat failed. The plant is remarkably productive. 1 tuber planted in spring produces 20 to 40 tubers by fall. This multiplication rate exceeds potatoes substantially. So why isn't OCA common? It's photoperiod sensitive, forming tubers only as days shorten in fall. In short-season climates, frost arrives before tuber formation completes, and its unfamiliar flavor confused palates accustomed to bland potatoes. But in appropriate climates, long-season areas with late frosts, OCA performs beautifully, and its unique flavor is advantage, not drawback, for adventurous eaters. Growing oca. Plant tubers after last frost. Choose sunny location with decent drainage. Space 12 inches apart in rows or beds. Plants grow slowly initially, producing attractive clover-like foliage. Growth accelerates in summer, forming bushy plants 12 to 18 inches tall. Water regularly through summer. Oca isn't drought-tolerant like some ancient crops. Consistent moisture produces best yields. Tuber formation begins in late summer as days shorten. This continues until frost kills foliage. In frost-free climates, tubers form through fall and winter. Critical factor, OCA needs time. In short-season climates, harvest may be small if frost arrives early. Extending season with row covers or choosing early varieties improves results. Harvest after first light frost kills foliage. Dig carefully. Tubers form in clusters near soil surface. Cure in sun for 1 to 2 days. This develops flavor and improves storage. Store like potatoes in cool, dark conditions. Oca stores 4 to 6 months easily. Using oca. Roast like potatoes. The citrus notes intensify, creating unique flavor. Excellent with roasted meats. Boil and mash. The texture is smooth, almost waxy. Add butter and seasonings. Eat raw in salads. Young, fresh tubers are crisp with bright citrus flavor. Slice thin for interesting salad addition. Stir fry with vegetables. Oca maintains texture and adds interesting flavor component. Sun exposure for several days before eating reduces tartness for those preferring milder flavor. Crop number 5. Tepary beans. The desert survivor. While common beans dominate gardens worldwide, indigenous peoples of the American Southwest and Mexico developed completely different beans specifically adapted to desert conditions. Tepary beans thrive where rainfall fails and temperatures soar. These small beans, about half the size of pinto beans, come in white, brown, and mottled varieties. They contain more protein than common beans with exceptional fiber content, and they're extraordinarily drought tolerant. Tepary beans complete their entire life cycle on 8 to 12 inches of annual rainfall. No irrigation, no supplemental water. The plants evolved in desert conditions and actually perform worse with too much water. Beyond drought tolerance, tepary beans mature quickly. Most varieties produce harvestable beans in 60 to 80 days. This allows cultivation in short-season climates despite their desert origin. Traditional peoples in the Sonoran Desert relied on tepary beans as protein staple for over 5,000 years. Spanish colonists noted their importance in indigenous agriculture. Then common beans largely replaced them as irrigation became available. Climate change is reversing this. As water becomes scarce and heat increases, tepary beans' adaptations become advantages rather than limitations. Growing tepary beans. Wait for warm soil. Minimum 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Tepary beans germinate poorly in cool conditions. Plant seeds 1 to 2 inches deep, spacing 4 to 6 inches apart in rows or beds. Seeds are small but easy to handle. Water at planting to ensure germination. After plants emerge and reach 4 to 6 inches tall, stop watering entirely. This forces deep root development and activates drought tolerance mechanisms. Plants grow as compact bushes reaching 12 to 18 inches tall. They flower prolifically under heat stress that would shut down common beans. Harvest when pods dry completely on plant. Shells turn brown and brittle. Seeds rattle inside. Pull entire plants and lay on tarp to finish drying. Shell dried beans by hand or by beating dried plants in bag. Winnow to remove chaff. Yields are modest compared to heavily watered common beans, but the zero-input nature makes them incredibly efficient. Using tepary beans. Cook like any dried bean. Soak overnight, drain, cover with fresh water, and simmer until tender, 60 to 90 minutes. The flavor is distinctive, nuttier and more complex than common beans. Some describe it as slightly earthy or mushroom-like. Use in traditional Southwestern dishes. Tepary beans are authentic ingredient in many Native American recipes. Mash into refried beans. The texture is smooth and holds together well. Add to soups and stews. They maintain texture during long cooking. Grind dried beans into flour. Tepary bean flour is high-protein addition to baking or can be used for tortillas. Crop number 6. Amaranth leaves. The versatile green. While amaranth grain appeared earlier in this series, the leaves deserve separate recognition. Ancient Mesoamericans valued amaranth as much for greens as grain, and leaf varieties deserve resurrection. Amaranth leaves contain more calcium than milk per serving, more iron than spinach, and exceptional vitamin A and C content. Few vegetables match amaranth's nutritional density. The plant grows incredibly fast. From seed to harvestable leaves takes just 3 to 4 weeks. It thrives in heat that makes lettuce and spinach bolt. And it continues producing leaves for months with regular harvesting. Many Asian and African cultures never stopped cultivating amaranth greens. Chinese amaranth, callaloo, and numerous varieties remain staples in traditional cuisines, but European-derived agriculture largely abandoned it. The reasons are cultural rather than practical. Amaranth's slightly earthy flavor differs from familiar mild greens, and its heat tolerance was disadvantaged in northern climates where cool season greens grew easily. But as climates warm and growing seasons shift, amaranth's heat tolerance becomes critical advantage. Gardens struggling to produce summer greens find amaranth thriving. Growing amaranth leaves. Plant seeds after frost when soil warms. Broadcast thinly over prepared bed or plant in rows. Seeds are dust fine. Mix with sand for easier distribution. Germination occurs in 5 to 7 days. Seedlings appear tiny but grow rapidly, thin to 6 to 12 inches apart depending on desired harvest size. Closer spacing produces smaller, more tender leaves. Wider spacing allows larger plants. Water consistently. Unlike grain amaranth, leaf varieties prefer steady moisture for the tender growth. Begin harvesting when plants reach 6 to 8 inches. Cut top 4 to 6 inches of growth or pick individual leaves. Plants branch and produce more growth. Continue harvesting every 7 to 10 days through growing season. Regular picking encourages continuous production. In hot climates, amaranth produces through summer when most greens fail. This fills critical gap in fresh vegetable production. Using amaranth leaves. Cook like spinach or chard. Young leaves are tender. Mature leaves benefit from longer cooking. Stir fry with garlic and oil. Traditional Chinese preparation highlighting amaranth's flavor. Add to soups and stews. Leaves maintain texture and add nutrition. Use in traditional callaloo, Caribbean dish combining amaranth leaves with coconut milk and seasonings. Young, tender leaves work raw in mixed salads, though the flavor is stronger than lettuce. Steam and season as simple side dish. The high calcium content makes this nutritionally valuable. Why these crops matter now? 3. The case for agricultural diversity. Understanding why 6 ancient crops deserve resurrection requires examining what modern agriculture lost in its drive toward simplification. Climate resilience. Modern staple crops evolved under specific conditions. As climate shifts, many struggle. Heat waves, droughts, erratic rainfall, these stress crops bred for stable conditions. Ancient crops developed over millennia in challenging environments. Sorghum's drought tolerance, Tepary beans' heat adaptation, Oka's frost resistance. These traits were survival necessities, not optional features. As climate becomes less predictable, having diverse crops with varied tolerances provides insurance. When one crop fails, others succeed. Reduced input requirements. Industrial agriculture depends on massive inputs. Synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, irrigation. Each requires energy, water, or chemical production. Ancient crops evolved to thrive with minimal inputs. They developed natural pest resistance, efficient water use, and ability to extract nutrients from poor soil. For home growers, this translates to lower costs and less work. For global agriculture, it suggests paths towards sustainability. Nutritional superiority. Modern crop breeding prioritized yield and uniformity over nutrition. The result is food that looks abundant, but delivers fewer micronutrients per calorie. Many ancient crops provide superior nutrition simply because they weren't bred to maximize carbohydrate production. Higher protein, better mineral content, more complete nutritional profiles characterize many traditional foods. Genetic diversity. Modern agriculture narrows genetic diversity dangerously. A handful of varieties dominate each crop. Disease or pest adapting to these varieties threatens entire harvests. Ancient crops represent vast genetic libraries. Each variety carries traits developed over centuries of natural and human selection. This diversity is biological wealth. Cultural connection. Foods connect people to heritage and place. Traditional crops carry stories, knowledge, and cultural significance modern commodities lack. Growing ancient crops reconnects growers to agricultural history. It preserves knowledge that took millennia to develop, and it honors the agricultural wisdom of ancestors. Food security. Dependence on few crops creates vulnerability. Supply chain disruptions, crop failures, or distribution problems threaten food access. Diversifying what gardens and farms grow increases resilience. If one crop fails, others provide. If supply chains break, local production continues. Starting your heritage garden. Practical implementation. Understanding ancient crops' value is first step. Actually growing them requires practical approach. Start small. Don't attempt all 6 crops first season. Choose 1 or 2 matching your climate and interests. Master these before expanding. Consider starting with fastest crops. Amaranth leaves provide harvest in weeks. This builds confidence while learning. Source seeds carefully. Heritage crops often aren't available at standard garden centers. Specialized suppliers focus on rare and traditional varieties. Seed Savers Exchange, Baker Creek, and similar organizations preserve and distribute heritage seeds. Many focus specifically on crops outside mainstream agriculture. Some crops like Jerusalem artichoke and OCA require sourcing tubers rather than seeds. Specialty nurseries and seed savers provide these. Match crops to climate. Not every ancient crop succeeds everywhere. Research climate requirements before committing. Sorghum and Tepary beans need heat. They struggle in cool northern climates. Oca needs long, cool growing seasons. It fails in hot southern climates. Farro adapts broadly but performs best where wheat grows well. Jerusalem artichoke and amaranth tolerate wide climate ranges. Prepare for different requirements. Ancient crops sometimes need different care than familiar vegetables. Sorghum and Tepary beans require withholding water, opposite of most garden advice. Oca needs patience as tubers form very late. Grain crops require threshing and winnowing equipment, even if just buckets and screens. Research specific requirements before planting to avoid surprises. Keep records. Document what works and what doesn't. Planting dates, germination rates, yields, and observations all provide valuable information for improving future seasons. Traditional farmers developed detailed knowledge through generations of observation. Modern growers can compress this learning by keeping good records. Connect with community. Online groups, seed swaps, and heritage garden organizations provide support and knowledge. Many experienced growers share seeds and advice freely. The heritage seed community values preservation and education over profit. Regional groups often focus on crops historically grown in specific areas, providing locally relevant information. Be patient with learning. Growing unfamiliar crops involves trial and error. Not every attempt succeeds immediately. Traditional farmers learned over lifetimes with knowledge passed through generations. Modern growers shouldn't expect instant mastery. Each season provides lessons. Over time, competence develops. The rewards, unique foods, enhanced resilience, connection to heritage, justify the learning process. 6 forgotten crops recovered from agricultural history. Each offers advantages modern agriculture abandoned in favor of uniformity and yields. The choice facing modern growers is whether to continue dependency on narrow agricultural diversity or begin restoring what was lost. The 6 crops explored here represent tiny fraction of agricultural diversity humans once cultivated. Thousands of traditional foods disappeared as industrial agriculture standardized global production. But these 6 offer starting point for anyone interested in expanding garden diversity beyond supermarket standards. They're proven crops that sustained populations for centuries or millennia. They're not experimental. They're forgotten. The knowledge required to grow them exists, preserved by seed savers, traditional farmers, and agricultural historians. Accessing it requires only willingness to look beyond mainstream gardening advice. Each crop connects growers to specific agricultural heritage. Sorghum to African and Southern American traditions. Jerusalem artichoke to indigenous North American agriculture. Farro to Mediterranean civilizations. Oca to Andean cultures. Tepary beans to southwestern indigenous peoples. Amaranth to Mesoamerican empires. Growing them isn't mere nostalgia. It's practical strategy for resilient food production in uncertain climate. It's nutritional upgrade from commodity crops. It's preservation of genetic diversity and agricultural knowledge. The question is whether modern gardeners will look backward to find forward path, whether curiosity about forgotten foods will overcome inertia toward the familiar crops, whether diversity will return to gardens currently growing endless variations of same 20 plants. The seeds exist. The knowledge exists. The crops work as well now as they did centuries ago. What's required is decision to plant something different. Agricultural history isn't past. It's resource waiting to be reclaimed. Each ancient crop grown represents recovery of knowledge nearly lost. Each successful harvest proves that alternatives to industrial agriculture exist. The 6 forgotten crops await rediscovery. The gardens that could grow them sit ready. The only question is whether growers will choose heritage over habit.